More holistic approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of sustainability, they're also making good progress on reducing their environmental impact.
Oh, yeah, across all their operations.
They've set some ambitious targets for carbon neutrality and reducing waste.
They have, and they're coming up with some really innovative solutions to achieve those goals.
It's clear they're taking their corporate social responsibility seriously.
Yeah, it's more than just lip service. They're actually trying to make a difference.
And it's an approach that really aligns with Ratan Tata's values. He always believed in the power of businesses to drive positive change.
Absolutely.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things you want our listener to walk away with?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that Tata Motors is at a crossroads.
Okay.
They're facing some serious challenges, both internally and externally,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also grabbing hold of new opportunities.
Particularly in those areas of EVs and digital transformation.
Right, those are the big ones.
So they're making these big bets on the future.
They are.
And their success will depend on how well they execute those plans.
Exactly. Execution is key.
But one thing is clear.
What's that?
They're not just standing still.
No, they're not.
They're actively adapting and evolving to meet the changing needs of the auto industry.
They're in the game.
And they're doing it with that commitment to sustainability, social responsibility, and those values that Ratan Tata instilled in the company.
It's a legacy they're carrying forward.
Absolutely. It's going to be really interesting to see what the next chapter holds for them.
It will be fascinating to watch.
Now, let's get back to those questions that came up during the earnings call.
Oh!
Investors and analysts were particularly interested in whether JLR could meet its full-year guidance.
Given all the challenges.
Right. And there was definitely some skepticism.
Understandably.
But Richard Molyneux, their CFO,
Yeah?
he explained why they're sticking to their guns.
What did he say?
He pointed to a few key things,
Okay.
like fixing that quality hold on those 6,000 vehicles, sorting out the aluminum supply chain issues,
Okay.
and the fact that their business typically sees the strongest cash flow in the fourth quarter.
So they're expecting things to pick up.
Exactly. He also mentioned the expected improvement in working capital during the second half of the year.
Right.
But he didn't sugarcoat things.
No.
He acknowledged that China is still a big risk factor.
Of course.
He said they're watching the situation very closely,
Oh, okay.
and they're ready to adjust their strategy if they need to.
So they're staying flexible.
But for now, they believe they can reach their goals.
It's a bold stance,
It is.
but it shows that they have confidence in their ability to navigate these choppy waters.
Yeah, and we can't forget that both Tata Motors and JLR have achieved those investment-grade ratings.
Right. That's a big deal.
It's a strong signal from the credit rating agencies,
It shows that they believe in Tata's long-term prospects.
which is reassuring for investors and stakeholders.
Absolutely. It's a testament to their financial discipline and commitment to sustainable growth.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit
Okay, where are we going now?
and talk about another area where Tata Motors is making some big moves.
What's that?
Their digital initiatives.
Oh, yeah, their digital transformation.
We talked about Fleet Edge for their commercial vehicles, but they're doing a lot more than that.
They're using digital across multiple areas,
Like what?
from improving customer experiences to optimizing their internal operations.
So they're using data analytics and machine learning to make things more efficient, cut costs, and gain a competitive edge.
That's right. It's all about using data to make better decisions.
For example, their connected car technology.
Yes.
It's giving them valuable insights into driver behavior and how their vehicles are performing.
And that data can then be used to improve things like safety features and the overall driving experience.
Yeah, and even personalize those services for individual customers.
It's all about tailoring the experience.
They're also using digital tools to streamline their supply chain management.
Yeah, which is so important in today's globalized world.
Absolutely. By optimizing logistics and inventory control, they can reduce waste, minimize delays, and respond more quickly to changes in the market.
Right, they need to be nimble.
And we can't forget about the potential for new revenue streams through these digital platforms.
That's a big one.
They can offer subscription-based services, provide data-driven insights to those fleet operators,
Right.
and even partner with other companies in the mobility space.
It's a whole new world of possibilities.
It really shows that Tata Motors isn't just a car company anymore.
Yeah, they're evolving.
They're becoming this tech-driven company.
A tech company that makes cars.
Exactly. And they're embracing digital innovation to completely transform their business.
It's a fascinating transition to watch.
It is, and it makes you wonder about the future of the entire auto industry.
Yeah. How will all these digital advancements change the way we design, build, and interact with our cars?
That's a question for another deep dive, maybe.
Definitely a whole other episode.
But for now, let's bring it back to Tata Motors
Okay.
and the specific challenges and opportunities they're facing.
Right back to the specific.
We've talked about their financials, their EV strategy,
Our digital initiatives.
but there's one area we haven't touched on yet:
What's that?
competition.
Ah, yes, competition,
Okay.
the lifeblood of any industry.
And the auto world is no exception.
Definitely not.
Tata Motors is facing competition from all sides,
They are.
both in India and around the globe.
So let's break it down.
Okay, let's start with the Indian market.
Right.
They're facing pressure from established players,
Like who?
like Maruti Suzuki and Hyundai.
The big names.
Yeah.
But also new entrants like Kia and MG.
The Indian car market is really heating up.
It is. It's super competitive with so many brands and models all fighting for customers.
So Tata has to keep innovating and coming up with those compelling products
If they want to stay ahead,
to hold on to that market share.
especially as the market shifts towards electric vehicles.
It's a crowded playing field.
It is, and every player brings something different to the table.
So how is Tata differentiating themselves?
They're focusing on a few key things.
Okay, like what?
Design for one, technology and value for money.
Okay, so those are the big three.
Yeah, their recent models have showcased this really distinctive design language.
Yeah, their design team has been getting a lot of praise lately.
They have the Nexon, the Harrier, and that upcoming Courage. They all have a unique look.
Yeah, they definitely stand out.
But it's not just about looks. They're also packing their cars with the latest technology.
Okay, particularly in areas like connectivity and safety.
Exactly like their IRA connected car platform.
Yeah.
It offers all these features that make driving better and give you peace of mind.
And they're also committed to safety,
Oh yeah, they've been getting high ratings in global safety assessments.
which is really important for a lot of buyers.
Especially in a market like India, where the roads can be pretty challenging.
Yeah, safety is paramount.
Absolutely. And Tata has made it a priority.
But all this technology and safety comes at a price.
It does.
So how are they keeping their cars affordable?
They're focusing on cost optimization across their whole operation.
From manufacturing to supply chain management.
Exactly. They're trying to be as efficient as possible.
And they're also leveraging their scale and local sourcing to keep those prices down.
It's a tough balancing act,
It is.
but they're managing to pull it off.
They have to, if they want to succeed in a price-sensitive market like India.
Absolutely. Now, let's zoom out a bit and look at the global competition.
Okay.
JLR in particular is up against some really tough rivals.
Yeah, the luxury car segment is a whole different ballgame.
It is. They're competing with the German giants like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah. And then you have the Japanese brands like Lexus and Infiniti.
It's a crowded and competitive market.
And the stakes are even higher now with this transition to electric vehicles.
Yeah, the established luxury brands are pouring billions into their EV programs.
And then you have new players like Tesla shaking things up.
JLR has to really step up its game to stay in the race.
Yeah, their reimagined strategy is a good start, but they need to execute it perfectly.
So where do they need to focus?
Well, they need to keep pushing the boundaries of design and technology, offering cars that are not only luxurious, but also cutting edge and sustainable.
Yeah, their recent models like the all-electric I-Pace and their redesigned Range Rover, they show that they can innovate.
They do, but they need to keep that momentum going.
So what else?
They need to strengthen their brand image and really set themselves apart from the competition
How do you do that?
by telling a compelling story, communicating those unique selling points, and connecting with customers on an emotional level.
It's about more than just the car itself.
Right. It's about the lifestyle, the aspiration.
The experience.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important point.
What's that?
Customer experience.
Oh, yeah.
They need to create those seamless and personalized interactions
Online and offline.
throughout the entire customer journey,
From the moment they start browsing for a car.
to the purchase and beyond.
It's all about making a positive and memorable impression.
Right, because in today's market, customer experience is a huge differentiator.
Absolutely. Happy customers are loyal customers.
And they're the ones who will spread the word.
And last but not least,
What's that?
JLR needs to figure out China.
Yeah, that's a big one.
As we discussed earlier, the Chinese market is crucial for their growth,
It is?
but it's also incredibly complex and volatile.
So many challenges.
They need to understand what Chinese consumers want, and they need to be really careful about navigating the regulatory landscape.
It's a tough task, but it's essential for their long-term success.
It sounds like Tata Motors, both in India and globally, is facing a real mix of challenges and opportunities.
Yeah, it's a dynamic and fast-changing industry.
They need to be agile and adaptable to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. Their ability to innovate, execute their strategies, and build those strong relationships with customers, those are the things that will determine their future.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have
Their financials, their strategic
the
initiatives,
challenges in China.
the competitive landscape.
There's a lot to take in.
But there's one final piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about yet.
What's that?
The impact of government policies and regulations.
Ah, yes. The regulatory landscape,
It's a crucial factor for any company,
especially in the auto industry.
which is heavily regulated pretty much everywhere.
So let's start with India. The Indian government has been actively promoting electric mobility
They have.
through all sorts of policies and incentives.
So how is that impacting Tata Motors?
Well, it's definitely making it easier for them to invest in and develop their EV offerings.
Howdy.
Things like government subsidies and tax breaks can really help lower the cost of EVs, making them more affordable for consumers.
Which fits right in with Tata's strategy of making EVs accessible to more people.
Exactly. They've already launched several affordable electric models.
Yeah.
And they're planning to expand their EV portfolio even further in the next few years.
The government support is definitely giving them a boost.
It is, and it's not just about the cars themselves.
Right.
The government's focus on electric mobility is also driving investments in charging infrastructure.
Which is essential for wider adoption.
Absolutely. And Tata is actively involved in building those charging stations across India.
Both on their own and through partnerships.
Right. They're working on all fronts.
So it seems like the government's policies are creating a really good environment for Tata's EV ambitions.
They are, but what about other regulations?
Yeah. What else do they have to deal with?
Well, there are all sorts of regulations related to emissions standards, safety requirements, and fuel efficiency.
So it's not just about EVs.
No, it's about everything.
And these regulations are constantly changing.
They are, which means companies need to stay ahead of the curve.
To avoid penalties and stay competitive.
Exactly. They can't afford to fall behind.
So Tata has been investing in R&D
Research and development.
to meet those evolving standards.
Okay, so they're putting money into developing cleaner engines.
Improving fuel efficiency and enhancing the safety features in their vehicles.
They have to if they want to stay in the game.
And it's not just about complying with the rules.
No, it's also about anticipating future trends.
Yeah, and proactively adopting those sustainable practices.
Exactly. Tata is working hard to reduce their carbon footprint, minimize waste, and promote responsible sourcing throughout their supply chain.
So it's a more holistic approach.
It is. They're looking at the bigger picture.
They understand that sustainability isn't just a box to check.
No.
It's an opportunity to build a more resilient and responsible business for the future.
And consumers are demanding that.
They're more aware of these environmental and social issues.
Right.
And they want products and services that reflect their values.
So companies need to adapt or risk losing customers.
Exactly. Now let's zoom out again and look at the global regulatory landscape.
Okay.
How are international policies and trade agreements affecting Tata Motors?
Particularly JLR.
Yeah. How are those global forces at play?
Well, trade agreements can have a big impact on things like tariffs and import-export regulations,
Okay.
which can really affect the cost of doing business in different markets.
Though JLR, with its global operations, has to be really careful about navigating those complexities.
They do.
For example, Brexit.
Yeah.
It's created new challenges for JLR.
Because they have a lot of manufacturing in the UK.
Right, they've had to adjust their supply chains and production plans to deal with those new trade barriers.
It's a constant adjustment.
And then there's the trade tensions between the U.S. and China.
Another layer of complexity.
It creates uncertainty for global businesses like Tata Motors.
They have to be able to respond to these shifting geopolitical dynamics.
It sounds like regulations and policies are constantly in flux.
They are both in India and globally.
So Tata Motors needs to stay informed, adaptable, and proactive.
To make sure they're complying with the rules and capitalizing on new opportunities.
And it's not just about reacting to what's happening now.
No, it's about looking ahead.
Anticipating future trends and understanding what consumers and regulators will expect down the road.
And then proactively adjusting their business practices to create a more sustainable and responsible future.
It's a continuous process of learning, adapting, and innovating.
It is. There's always something new to learn.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have. It's been a long journey.
exploring all the different facets of Tata Motors.
Their financials, their strategic initiatives,
There are challenges in China, the competitive landscape.
their regulatory environment.
But As with any complex story, there's always more to uncover.
Always more to learn.
And that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating.
They give you a glimpse behind the curtain.
A chance to see what's really going on inside a company.
And understand the decisions that shape their path.
They give you a deeper understanding of how businesses work.
The good, the bad, and everything in between.
And ultimately, they help us make better decisions.
Whether we're investors, consumers, or just curious observers.
We've given you the information.
The raw materials.
Now it's up to you to use it.
To draw your own conclusions and make your own judgment.
Until next time, keep exploring. Keep asking questions and keep diving deep.
That's the key to understanding the world around us.
Yeah, it really has been a fascinating journey unpacking all this information about Tata Motors.
Yes.
We've seen their struggles and their ambitions,
Mm-hmm.
the sheer scale of what they're doing.
It's impressive.
But like with any deep dive, the real value is what you take away from it.
Absolutely.
It's not just about understanding Tata Motors on its own.
No.
It's about using this knowledge to see those connections to the bigger picture.
Right.
The trends that are shaping the auto industry,
yeah.
the global economy, even our own lives.
It's all connected.
So let's bring it all home.
Okay.
If you were talking to someone who knew nothing about Tata Motors,
Yeah.
what would be your one-sentence summary?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I guess I'd say that Tata Motors is a company at an inflection point,
Okay.
grappling with these global shifts in the auto industry
Mm-hmm.
while carrying the legacy of this iconic Indian brand.
Wow. That's actually perfect.
Really?
It captures the tension, the
Ugh.
history, and the sense of possibility.
I tried.
But let's play a little game I like to call What Surprised You?
Oh, okay.
While we were going through all these documents,
Mm-hmm.
was there anything that made you go, huh, didn't expect that?
You know, I was really struck by the lack of detail about autonomous driving
Oh, yeah.
in their materials.
Me too. I was like, where is it?
Right. It felt like a bit of a blind spot, especially with all the hype around self-driving tech these days.
It makes you wonder, are they intentionally staying quiet
Maybe.
while they work on something groundbreaking?
Or are they just behind their competitors?
It's hard to know
It
flat,
is without some insider information.
but it raises a really important question for any business in a rapidly changing field.
Like what?
How do you balance staying true to your core strengths while also embracing those disruptive technologies?
Yeah, that's $1 million question.
It is.
You don't want to abandon what's made you successful,
Mm-hmm.
but you also can't just ignore the changes happening around you.
It's like you said before, finding that sweet spot,
Right.
knowing when to evolve and when to double down on what you do best.
And that's something Tata Motors will definitely need to figure out.
Yeah, as they navigate the road ahead.
No doubt.
So for our listener who's been with us this whole time, soaking up of all this info,
Mm-hmm.
what's the one question they should be asking themselves right now?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me think.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? If you were in charge of Tata Motors,
Okay.
what would be your boldest move?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
It challenges them to not just understand the situation,
Right.
but to actually put themselves in the driver's seat.
Exactly. Would they go all in on EVs,
Mm-hmm.
double down on JLR's luxury appeal?
Or maybe invest heavily in something unexpected, like autonomous driving.
It's their call.
Right.
There's no right or wrong answer.
No.
But just thinking about it makes you really analyze the company's strengths and weaknesses.
And consider all the different paths they could take.
Exactly.
And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable.
It's not just about getting the information.
It's about sparking your own analysis and insights.
Right.
So listener, we've given you the raw materials.
The building blocks.
Now it's your turn to build something amazing.
Go out there and create something.
We've reached the end of our deep dive into Tata Motors.
It's been quite a journey.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
from their financial performance to their ambitious plans for the future,
Their struggles, their triumphs.
and everything in between.
It's a complex story,
But it's a story that's still being written.
and it'll be fascinating to see what the next chapter holds.
Absolutely.
For Tata Motors.
And for the entire auto industry.
It's an exciting time to be watching this space.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another in-depth look at the business world.
Until then, keep exploring.